Hello, hello, hello. Those of you who have been listening to the podcast for a while might have noticed something a little bit different about the beginning of this episode. That's right, we are very excited to debut our new theme song, Dead Bats on a Wire by Savannah, Rivka, and Ashleigh. We are so happy to have this music as part of the show, and we are so grateful to Savannah and Ashleigh for donating their time and talent to make this happen. Awesome theme song. So thank you so much to both of you for doing this, and we really appreciate your contribution and really tying the show together in this way. I am Jason Cordova, the president and host of the Crypto Science Society podcast, a show dedicated to the study of strange and unusual phenomena. Joining me today is a special guest co-host, our treasurer, chief investigator, and Utah Regional Director, Heather Jane Metcalf. Hello, Heather. How are you?
Woo!
Hey.
Hello. Yay!
Yay! Yes. Sadly, so Janae, I think, may have fallen into a silverbacked scrying mirror, and unfortunately cannot be with us. She's locked in some kind of a pocket universe right now.
Oh, gee whiz.
So once we are able to get her out of there, we'll be back on track. But in the meantime, filling in is Heather.
Yay!
Yeah.
She seems to keep doing that. I remember the last podcast I did with you. She fell into the space-time continuum. We had to send out a search party then too.
Yep. Like a metaphysical lifeline.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Not quite sure how the physics work on it.
Yeah,
We're gonna do.
It's a lot of math.
The Montauk Project knows.
Yeah.
It's a lot of math. Yeah. So today there's so much going on. I thought we would do a kind of a state of the society, state of the world, state of the paranormal universe, as it were, and talk a little bit about all the crazy stuff that we got going on. Before we do that, though, I know we've both got a lot of really cool stuff to talk about. There's been so much going on, but I did want to touch on a couple little corrections from our previous episode on cattle mutilations. And we're leading up to the storming Area 51 thing. And Janae and I were mentioning that Tom DeLonge, formerly of Blink-182, the former lead guitarist of Blink-182, is doing all this awesome stuff with To the Stars Academy and this mini disclosure thing we've got going on. It was pointed out by my sister Tracy that Tom DeLonge is actually not currently touring with Blink-182. In fact, he is touring with his new band, Angels and Airwaves, and Blink-182 is touring with the Alkaline Trio guitarist Matt Skiba in Tom's place. And that was a kind of a, you know how that kind of thing goes. Wanted to clarify that. I apologize to all our diehard Blink-182 Tom DeLonge fans and Angels and Airwaves and Alkaline Trio and all that. What do you know about punk rock, Heather?
I actually have a Blink-182 CD sitting within like 10 feet of me, actually, somewhere.
Good.
Punk rock. Oh gosh, I feel like I'm
What
gonna
album
be
is it?
like,
Hold up. What album is it?
oh gosh, it's the one with the smiley face on it.
The one Take Off Your Pants and Jacket?
I don't know. I feel like I should know. I inherited it. I actually didn't pay for it myself,
Oh yeah.
but I did enjoy listening to it on repeat.
You air quotes inherited it.
Inherited it. Yes.
It found its way to you.
Yes, I may or may not have borrowed it from my stepmom and never gave it
Just
back.
forgot to give
Just
it back.
forgot.
Crazy.
Which
It's wild.
thanks for reminding me, Jason, though, because now I have to give it back.
And
Because I
now it's on the air.
publicly announced that I have it. So thanks for that.
Just rip it, and give it back.
Yeah.
No harm, no foul.
Technology. Does anybody even listen to CDs anymore? Like, my computer does not even have a CD drive built into it.
I know. We got like the external thing to plug in.
The external disk drive is sad. Very sad,
Right.
the state of technology.
Yeah.
But what about you? Are you a big punk rock fan?
I'm a connoisseur
Okay.
of all music, yes. And
I can
there's
relate with that.
special place in my heart. If you recall, I borrowed your episode that you did the interview with Mac about about your investigation, the interrupters.
Yes.
That's off that was borrowed from the band the Interrupters, because you were like, she's a match.
I kept interrupting people.
No, because she's a match. You're kerosene. One day
Okay.
we're gonna burn down everything. She's an arsonist in a spare time. We can't go too much into that because
Yeah, copyright.
licensed music and all.
Yeah.
But yes, yeah. So, but I love the fact that there's this like blending of just rock music and magic and UFOs and occult and all this kind of stuff. We have a plan to do a whole episode on just magic and occult in
rock music.
In rock music, and
we
do a whole episode on just music and UFOs and.
Yeah, well, my personal theme song is "Black Magic Woman" by Santana.
Yeah. Nice,
Every time it comes on the radio, me and my boyfriend, we start singing to it. "Black Magic Woman." That's a good one.
Santana is interesting. He's very he's very Christian.
Yeah, he's got a very interesting vibe to him though. Like I grew up on Santana actually, and so both my parents listened to a lot of Santana, and my mom related to it from like her Portuguese side of like her heritage. And I know that I don't know if he's explicitly Portuguese, but he has that feel to it that my mom could relate to, like with her heritage. And then my dad was really into like the bluesy sort of feel of it, and
right.
And I think it reminds my mom too of our family in New Orleans, because he has that feel to him, you know?
Right.
And I know I keep saying that. I should probably explain exactly what that means, but he's very bluesy, he's very smoky, he's very and so I personally connect with Santana music very deeply.
I think he's Mexican.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain he's Mexican, and I can relate to that a lot too, because and where he's coming from, like we have this amalgam of like these, like the curanderismo, the indigenous, the medicine and the magic, there mixed with the the Catholicism and the santos and all that, and this blending, this amalgam. So it's its own unique thing, and that's the same thing in New Orleans. You've got the Cajun and the Creole and these different blendings. What it's a Latin influence.
Yeah,
right.
I have this very specific memory actually that just came to mind of my mom drinking too much tequila and dancing with me the samba while playing Santana and saying, "You're never gonna forget your heritage, right, Heather?" I'm like, "Yes, mother."
All right.
Yeah, I like Santana.
Orale. Nice.
But
so
you were mentioning, sorry, but for people and myself, I don't really listen to a lot of news, and I intentionally try to keep away from that because I think that it can negatively affect people's energies.
Hmm.
I was wondering exactly if you could explain what this Area 51 thing is for
Uh,
me and for people that might not know.
yes. So a couple months ago, somebody created a group on an event on Facebook called Storm Area 51. Basically, the idea was they can't catch us all.
Mm.
We just meet in mass and just rush the gates. We're gonna break the doors down and crack it open and find all the UFOs and aliens that they're hiding there, right?
Hmm.
And apparently, dude started this as a joke. It got way out of hand, way quick. Over 1 million people responded
Oh,
that they were
jeez.
going. So the joke started popping up like, yeah, ha ha ha, 1 million people said they're going, so 3 people are going to show up, right? Facebook
Yeah.
event, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the ufologists actually got like a lot of folks got on this idea like, wait a minute, like this is a lot of momentum, this is a lot of energy. One, first of all, let's not storm the gates because that's a crime.
Yeah.
For one, you're illegally declaring an intention to illegally trespass on a government facility. They do have guns, and use of deadly force is authorized, and
Yep.
they do not mess around. Most of the people I know that have gone past the gates, past the point of no return, so to speak,
Yeah.
have gotten heavy fines, have
Mm.
been arrested at gunpoint, forcibly removed, and
Mhm.
they don't mess around.
Is this
And
for like a
especially,
specific day? Like it's actually like
yeah,
an event on
yeah.
Facebook?
In fact, I believe it was supposed to be this last weekend,
Huh.
which I just saw some posts. I've been kind of out of it myself because traveling to Estonia and coming back, and it's like, oh wait, did that just happen? I saw somebody posted, marked themselves safe after storming Area 51,
Mm.
like I think jokingly. But anyway, the whole thing started as this joke. A lot of the ufologists grabbed a hold of it and was like, "Hey, let's just kind of spin it. Let's use this. Let's use this momentum. Let's use this energy. And like, if you do go, let's do it safe, because the it's in the middle of nowhere, and there's no water, there's no facilities,
Yeah.
there's no place to stay. You're gonna be roughing it camping and roughing it car camping. So make sure you've got supplies."
That sounds like that could potentially be very problematic.
Right. Um, so I don't know. I haven't had a chance to like really catch up and see what went down, but it looks like it was uneventful, if nothing else. But the idea was it was originally a joke. It got out of hand. They flipped it and tried to turn it into some kind of like a gathering to um, just like talk about the real cool stuff that's going on with To the Stars Academy,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that well, like what's going on with To the Stars Academy, it's little seedlings, so to speak, of this is what's the ATIP, so the Pentagon UFO program, and Lou Elizondo, the guy who he ran the program to study military UFO encounters for the DoD in the interest of national security, and how they've got a panel of legit scientists who are publishing papers, and Bigelow Advanced Aerospace Systems was contracted by ATIP, and they overhauled one of Bigelow's hangars in order to house some what they're calling metamaterials.
Mm-hmm.
So materials of unknown origin that could very potentially be manufactured by a non-human intelligence. This is the implication. Everybody's being very careful about actually, saying it. They're saying it in just the right way that it lends it scientific credibility that it needs to. And they're doing everything right. There's actually some really cool stuff going on. So look up To the Stars Academy, look up ATIP, look up, actually, my cousin Alejandro on his podcast is doing an awesome job of being the pipeline for information on that. So Open Minds UFO Radio. podcast on that. And then the History Channel, also on the show. It's called Unshoot. I am drawing a blank. What? Unshoot. Yeah.
Unshoot.
It is. Give me a second, and
Well,
I will.
maybe we'll just put it in the description box. When
Yeah.
we post the video, we can put it in the description.
Right.
So check the
To
description, yo.
remind me to do that.
I will.
That brings us right into my
Sorry,
next.
I tend to make people go on tangents for some
Yeah,
reason because I
great
ask
tangent.
too many questions.
Great tangent. No, it's great. It makes it pretty fun. But yeah, that's a perfect segue into the next correction, which was my explanation of hemoglobin from the last episode. You notice that's not really any kind of segue at all. Pretty much a hard left turn into hemoglobin.
It's okay.
So
we can pretend it's a segue.
I don't remember exactly how I described hemoglobin, but a good friend of mine who knows something about large animal veterinary medicine pointed out that it helped me to formulate a better way to describe what hemoglobin is. And if you think of the red blood cell, by the way, did you listen to the last episode, Heather?
Am I gonna get an F- if I didn't?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
Okay. I didn't listen to it. I made the cover art for it though, so
You
that
did.
gives
You
me
made the
points,
cover art.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But did you read the article too? Did you read the article? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So if you remember correctly, if you remember in the article, it also talks about how when we talked to Nancy Talbot of BLT Research, when we were preparing to go out to investigate this cattle mutilation case, she had pointed out that there had been in previous cases, she told us to look for dried brown spots on the animal's hide, because in previous cases that had been detected, and they tested it and identified it as bovine hemoglobin, which is extremely rare to have outside of a lab situation. And I think I described it as kind of a part of the plasma in the blood, which is not correct. It's actually the hemoglobin. If you think of a red blood cell as a jelly donut, the hemoglobin is the jelly in the donut. A whole bunch of like good stuff in that jelly.
Yummy.
And so that doesn't make it, that actually it would be very difficult to separate the hemoglobin from the rest of the blood outside of a laboratory environment.
Yeah, that does sound very difficult to actually achieve that.
Right. Now, I don't know what tests specifically were used to identify the hemoglobin. So it would be kind of a thing like we'd have to go back and look at the notes, and I'd probably have to contact Nancy to find out exactly what she was referring to in this. Like, how do they know they were looking for hemoglobin, and what kind of tests were they doing that discovered it? The other thing to point out is that actually, so we did not detect that in our case, so it wasn't present in our case. But still pretty freaky nonetheless.
Yeah, I'd say.
And for those of you who missed it, go check out Strange Animal Deaths in the San Luis Valley, both the blog post and the episode. You'll find it just right before this one. It's easy.
Yeah. Do it.
In fact, if you have it on autoplay, it might actually just roll right over when you're done.
So all you have to do is just not do anything.
Yeah, just sit back and relax.
Sit. Don't touch that dial.
Let us take you on a journey into
the
exciting world of
Cryptoscience Society and technology, which will autoplay for you. Yay!
So yeah, We are adults talking about cryptoscience. That's
Yep.
all the corrections I have. And how far into it are we? You keeping track of time?
Yes, I have a little timer. It says 22 minutes and 49 seconds. 50 seconds
Cool.
now.
All right. Yeah, maybe. Just give a heads up when we get into like the 45-minute mark.
Do you want me to? I'll do like hand signals. I'll like go like this. I'll do flap
Yeah.
my hands. Yeah, like a bird.
And it's like a bird. Yes. Perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
And I'll forget.
And then,
that
but
that
you'll
was
be
your
so
cue.
weirded out by what I'm doing that you'll
I'll
be like,
see
Heather, what are
that.
you doing? And I'll be like, remember, it's the signal, Jason.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah, we already talked about the storming Area 51 thing and why, part of why it's taken so long to get a new episode out, because we have been all over the world. My girlfriend Savannah, and she is also the special operations agent and official folklorist and cultural advisor of the Crypto Science Society.
Noise.
Has been doing field work in Japan, in Hokkaido. I went out to visit her, and we did a haunted history tour of the one of the weirdest islands in the world.
What
Pretty
island was
awesome.
that?
Japan.
Oh, yes. Japan is a very strange island, indeed. I like it personally, though. I like Japan.
It is cool. It's awesome. It's really awesome and magical and very different than any country I've ever been to before. And they've got a very unique. They've got some really cool history. They've got spirits. They've got ghosts. They've got stigmatized properties.
Nice.
They have this thing going on. I don't want to talk too much about it because we're gonna in an upcoming episode we're gonna have
no spoilers. No spoilers.
Yeah, so just a little taste. Give you a little
Okay.
taste.
Okay, I permit it.
But let's just say if you've seen The Grudge and The Ring, that is they're based on real. The Japanese believe in ghosts. I'll just say it that way, like to the point where it's built into the legal system when it comes to renting property.
I would be very interested to learn more about that. That sounds very interesting.
Yeah. I sent you a few videos.
I totally looked at them.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
See,
Totally
remember now?
them.
Remember?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So that's a little teaser of what's to come.
Yay.
So yeah. Then we converged on Tallinn, Estonia, and she defended her thesis. And never mind. All while doing this, she had the time to compose and perform with one of her colleagues our new theme song, which you heard at the introduction to this episode, called "Dead Bats on a Wire."
That's awesome.
Yes, yes, it is.
And we'll hear it in the outro too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you
out.
missed it, now you will be able to hear it a second time and know what it is and appreciate it.
As long as you stay tuned to the end, you have to listen to the whole episode.
Yeah, now you're obligated. Now you can't go anywhere.
Yep, you're in deep. You're committed.
Mm-hmm. You've gone too far. There's no way back.
Right. So yeah, then we converged in Estonia, which we already did. We did a haunted history tour of Estonia a couple episodes back, which you can catch up on. On the way back from Estonia this time, we stopped in Riga, Latvia, which has it's Eastern Europe, old Europe, and they have some cool history. We got old town, people built into the city walls, ghosts just walking down the street with you, asking you for money.
Oh my gosh, just like I want to go to Europe so much and just do some paranormal investigating.
Yeah.
That sounds so cool. And like just the thing that I love about paranormal investigating, it's like you're speaking to people who have lived history. And so it's history is always told by the victor.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get the story from the people who didn't win.
Right? And that's what you're getting from the ghost hunt, the
Hmm.
paranormal investigation. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a deep history. It's a different side of it. It's like real life. You end up learning how people actually lived and died. And yeah, there's a lot of like, these folk legends, right? There's these
Hmm.
stories that come about and they're like, no way that's true. Like it's totally holy crap. And then you start doing some digging into it and like, no, there's actually evidence that this went
Hmm.
down. So
Yeah. You mentioned earlier to me off the air that Savannah is going to Romania, did you say?
no, she's going to Bulgaria
Oh, Bulgaria.
this
Okay.
this time. Yeah.
Because there's, which one's the one with, where's Dracula, Vlad the Impaler from? Because there is a forest there that is an ancient forest, and it has a perfect opening in the middle of it that's a clearing that nothing, no, like vegetation will grow, no trees will grow, and this forest is supposed to be insanely haunted. None of the locals will go into it because everybody who goes into it doesn't come out. And like I've seen videos of people going in and like they see orbs, like red orbs, orange orbs. They go in and they like have this feeling of like an energy like portal, and then all of a sudden they'll just go into like states of panic and stuff. And it's supposed to be a very, very energetically charged place, but I'm not exactly sure if it's positive energy. It doesn't sound like a very positive place. It sounds like a very dark place, but
Mm.
that is one place that I would be interested to venture into, as long as I
Well,
had company, you know.
yeah,
But
yeah. Don't go in alone.
yeah, don't go
Uh,
alone. You might never
in
come out.
Transylvania,
Okay, yeah.
it so if it is indeed what I'm thinking, and you're talking about Vlad's castle.
Hmm.
Uh,
This is like, it's maybe like a few hours away from Vlad's castle.
okay. Well, I might have driven through it when we were
Really?
might have driven through it.
And
Um,
how did that make you feel? How did you feel going through the forest?
it was actually pretty cool. Most of like I felt the I mean the part we were driving through the mountains there. God, my brain today. What is the the Carpathian Mountains?
Hmm.
Um, really cool. They're kind of like there's a lot more vegetation. There's a more of the it's thick, it's dense
Hmm.
vegetation. They're tall mountains, like Colorado and Utah. Like we're high up. We start climbing a mountain, we're already at altitude.
Hmm.
So, but the Carpathian Mountains, like you're starting low and going high. We
Mm.
drove over this crazy pass called the Transfiguration, and over this. It was a really it well okay so take some pictures, Google some pictures of this thing, like crazy mountain pass in Romania.
Hmm.
You'll see what I'm talking about. It's this windy, twisty, crazy road that goes through the mountains. And actually, one of Vlad's castles is at the base of the road that goes up through this. And you drive through this forest and these mountains, and it is every bit like what you would expect to see in the story.
That's really cool.
It's really eerie. I think there was at one point. So they have all these
Is
fortified churches.
is the moon always full there?
Uh, no, no.
Okay.
There's it's never the moon. There's no moon. It's always dark,
Hmm.
dark, the darkness.
The
No.
darkness. So it's not even like the theoretical Halloween universe that we created at the beginning of the podcast. It's just complete darkness. So it's like even more intense than our Halloween universe.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
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 Nice.
It
That
is.
sounds awesome.
No, actually, what I found striking about Romania was it's nothing like whatever it is I expected it to be was nothing was not there, right? I feel like the people are very pragmatic, yet they do believe in vampires.
I bet.
They
Yeah. It's
do
part.
believe in these spirits, But it's a different kind of a different twist than I feel like what we think of as the Hollywood Bram Stoker kind of thing. And
Well, vampires are actually a part of history. If you Google historical vampire hunting kit, there are these antique, they're really legit and they're super intense. Like you look in them and they have holy water, they got the rosary,
oh
they've
yeah,
got like they've got the works and they're this is what people actually carried around with them when they were traveling through these regions because this was a reality for them.
And Bulgaria is, from what I understand, from what Savannah and her colleagues have shared with me, is that it's Bulgaria is very similar in that regard. Even today, Romania stuff. I forget exactly how it went down. There was a story that fairly recently, something to do with a bank card, like ATM card. There was a whole movement of people who were against using these bank cards because somewhere in the Romanian language there was something about the bank card that had the word Drac in it. And if so, like we get the name Dracula comes from the dragon or devil.
Son of the devil, doesn't it?
Son of the devil, exactly. Yeah. So
and
Drac,
so Drac
is
mean the devil.
The devil, right?
Yeah.
So you've got Drac on this bank card. Like people literally believed that this was like the mark of the beast. This was evil, and they're not. No, we can't use that. We can't do that. Like people still do full on like old style exorcisms. It's intense. It's interesting. Like it's a lot of folk magic. Like it's a place that's very rich with folk magic. It's another thing altogether to like hear these stories, and I feel like as Americans it's easy for us to detach the reality from the story too.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like,
well, we've got our society is so just saturated with theatrics and movies and monsters. It's almost like we're kind of desensitized to it.
So Poyunar Castle was one of Vlad's fortresses. So there are many castles throughout the region that are attributed to Vlad Dracula, and there's Castle Bran, which is in a fairly easy to get to area, and that's the main one that the tourists go to as Dracula's castle. And it is technically one of his castles. It was a place where he was hanging out when he was in exile for a little while. So the two main castles that we went to were Bran Castle, which is the main one that's recognized as Dracula's castle in the town of Bran. It's a place where Vlad spent some time in exile after his dad and uncles and brother were all assassinated, and he hung out until he could get enough support together to get out and wage vengeance. That's the one where we
went on some adventuring.
Yeah, there were some adventures there.
I'm just sitting here so interested in everything that you have to say, but we did have an outline.
Yeah, we did have an outline. But no, it's actually fine. It's fine. It's really good stuff to talk about, and it's relevant. So what I'm getting at, what I'm trying to get to is they've utilized this as an opportunity to educate, right? Like tell the real story of who Vlad was and kind of separate the Bram Stoker mythos from the real true story history of it. And it's pretty interesting and all that. And then you get out to Poyunar Castle, which is the fortress that's like out on the hill, and that's the one that you think of crazy fortress isolated up on the mountaintop, and I can totally like we're walking through the forest down below it, and I can totally see pathetic Jonathan Harker wandering lost in the woods. Oh man, what do I do?
Where's civilization, man?
What's going on?
What a
Whoa.
cozy castle, man.
Yeah. And then they've got these static displays of pikes with
Oh, fun.
impaled.
With like little mannequins that are just,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
just
So it's like, oh
it's like,
yeah.
look, kids. That's
He
the impaled victims of
impaled
Vlad the Impaler.
thousands of people on pikes.
Yeah. What an interactive experience.
Yeah, it's really fun. Yay. Made it to the top.
Yeah.
And then you go
Don't
and
fall
drive
down.
through
Don't
the
fall down because
Carpathian Mountains and all this.
there's sticks that'll
Yeah.
impale you, and then you'll become part of the interactive exhibit. That's why it's interactive.
Yay.
Yay!
But so there's that, and then there's Castle Corvin, which is actually on the list of like the top 10 most haunted castles in all of Europe.
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
Where
I want to go.
where our boy Prince Vlad was actually imprisoned in the dungeon there for a minute.
Our
'Cause
boy
this is
Vlad. Our
our
boy
boy-
Vlad.
Our boy
Yeah.
Vlad Dracula. And this like, he freaked his captors out because he was like torturing rats and
Fun.
always the showman.
That sounds like a pleasant person to hang out
So,
with. Yeah.
But the Castle Corvin is so cool. I was more impressed with Castle Corvin and the house Castle Corvinus, which is, if Underworld fans will recognize the name Corvinus, there's all kinds of cool stories about stuff going on down there. There's the cursed well. There's the bear pit. They've got their own torture chamber.
Loads of fun.
It's pretty well preserved by Romanian standards as far as like old castles go. Savannah may disagree. Savannah disagrees as far as like as a conservationist, an archivist, and a folklorist. There's definitely some things that they, you know how like here we have like historic buildings. You can only adjust and alter so much. Like this and that. They don't have those same kind of standards in other places. You could definitely feel the reality of the history there.
That's cool.
A lot of cool stories, and that's like a whole. I think each one of those castles and each one of those topics is a topic in and of itself. So
yeah, just a podcast wish list.
Yeah. So that
happened.
Savannah's on her way to Bulgaria now, so I'm sure we're going to have a bunch of new stories come out of that.
Fun.
And we're going to get her on as soon as possible so she can do Japan and India. Like we got to it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, she sounds like, oh my gosh, I bet she goes on so many cool adventures. I would just love to just sit down and talk to her and just like pick her brain with all of the cool things that she's seen and done. That just, oh my gosh, I would love to just actually just meet her and talk to her about all the things that she's experienced.
Yeah.
She goes everywhere.
Yeah.
She goes to all the fun places that I want to go to.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Me too. So looks like we're on the back side of the trail here now. We're on our way back to the trailhead as far as time goes, right?
Back to the topic at hand.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I found a path over here. We should follow it.
Right.
It's out of the brush.
Oh, yeah. There is a trail. Clearly marked. It's clearly marked trail.
Clearly marked. We've just been ignoring it.
Yep. So much for the conservation area.
Yeah, right.
We have an exciting new investigation to talk about too. Speaking.
I like new investigations.
Yeah. So while Savannah was in town, we went down to Alamosa to visit our friend Kat. She's the one who invited me down to do a talk for La Puente, the organization she works for, to assist with homelessness, help keep people out of, basically prevent homelessness and address that stuff. So we did a benefit talk at Milagros Coffee House down there a couple months ago. Apparently, I made fans because while we were walking around, we ran into somebody who came to the talk, and he was really excited to share something that he found at the Alamosa Cemetery. So there's a grave that is known to the locals as the Witch's Grave, primarily because the date of the occupant's death is carved into the stone as October 36th, 1913. So to the locals, the local legend holds that that is some sort of a witch's
The witch's
calendar,
calendar. Yeah.
and that it is, they believe wholeheartedly that there is a witch that's buried there on account of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this individual identifies himself as a bit of a skeptic. He's kind of the right kind of skeptic, open-minded yet objective.
Okay, that's the best kind.
Exactly, like all of us should be. Any good
I like having
investigator.
people like that on investigations because they keep you level-headed.
Exactly. That's how any good investigator should be. Don't be so open-minded that your head falls out of your skull, but don't be so closed-minded that nothing's gonna get in. Apparently, it paid off because he and his buddy went down. They were like, "Oh, let's take some pictures of the statue." And so, for the listeners, it's a very large statue of a woman holding a wreath, and one arm is kind of out. It's a very kind of solemn, pious kind of sculpture.
Yeah, and she's kind of looking down, and she's got her eyes are kind of half lidded, and she looks very kind of almost somber, I'd say, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. So this individual and his buddy went down, and they were taking some pictures a little after sunset. And after they took some pictures, he reviewed the pictures right after he took them, and recognized that in one picture, her index finger on the hand that's holding the wreath is extended. In another picture, it's fully clenched around the wreath. It went back and forth. He kept it together. He's like, I think we need to go. And he grabbed his buddy, and they left. And then after they were out of the cemetery, he showed his buddy. And they both had that like whoa kind of moment. And
these photos were taken at night, and I can imagine that was a pretty creepy situation. I can imagine he probably didn't, I don't know, it's just like he probably didn't want to scare his friend, because maybe he was afraid his friend wanted to stay, and he seemed like he just kind of wanted to GTFO.
Yeah, right. I think he handled it well. It sounds like it went down this way. And of course, we contacted the other guy, and he corroborated the story. And it doesn't seem like they're the kind of people that, they don't seem like the kind of people that would be out to be hoaxing. They're not the kind of they definitely have an interest in the topic, but they're not the kind of people that are really going to be out to go hoax that kind of thing. And I shared, it's almost too good to be true.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. So we went down there ourselves, and we were like, okay, well, we don't have anything else going on tonight. Let's go to the cemetery on the way home. And we checked it out and took some pictures. And when we saw it in person, her index finger is extended.
Yeah. And I personally researched online if there were any other accounts of this, and every single picture I was able to find is all of her finger extended, and no one has mentioned anything online that I can personally find of any moving statue of like her finger moving. So if this is true, this would be the first case of someone observing that this statue moved. And I was mentioning to you, Jason, the other night over text that sometimes spirits will try to they inhabit these humanoid objects like dolls or statues, and I think that it makes them feel more grounded to this planet, this earth. Sometimes some spirits might not want to form a spiritual attachment with humans or with other living creatures. I don't know what that's like for them. Maybe it's uncomfortable for them. Maybe they don't want to be attached to someone so closely like that. But I can imagine that some people, I mean, they're still around for a reason. They can't let go. Of course, like it would seem logical that they would want to feel closer to this earth, feel like they have a physical body. So why not attach themselves to something that isn't conscious, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it's very interesting because it's not just a legend anymore, you know? There's actually evidence. It's not just people saying, "Oh, October 36th," because you mentioned too that you spoke to the cemetery and they said it was a misprint.
Well, and to clarify, our witness
Okay, they
is the
talked.
one who
Yeah.
did that. So he did that and he relayed it to me.
Okay.
And yeah, so he said that he followed up. He said that they claim that it's a misprint, this October 36th date of death. That's kind of an impressive misprint, I think, right?
Especially with like the fact that someone can afford this immaculate statue that's literally like it's to scale, like of a human.
Oh, it's big. It's larger than life.
Yeah. And
Actually,
so like
the Instagram
sorry, go
on
ahead.
Instagram, we got a picture of me next to it,
Mhm.
and it's like it's big.
Yeah, so why would they have all this money spent on this beautiful statue and be okay with there being a misprint on it?
Mm-hmm.
Why not
And
just spend the money to fix it?
this is actually the family plot.
Yeah.
So this is actually
So that's a big deal.
Yeah. So the statue is the center monument in the family plot, and the actual graves are around the outside of said monument. So there's multiple individuals who have their. This is quite common. You'll have multiple individuals in the family, the prominent ones, who have their more information on the center pillar of the monument, and then it's pretty simple. The headstones on the graves around it. So yeah, it's a lot of money and a full family investment in it. We talked to some folks, and nobody seems to know the family, which is kind of interesting. Seems like a pretty prominent family, but maybe they've all moved on.
Yeah, maybe the name isn't around anymore.
Right.
But yeah, it seems like there would be some way to trace it back to like with genealogy and stuff, like what family was descended from that, even if the name isn't still around.
So that's one of our goals. That's one of our homework assignments.
Research.
To dig a little bit about that. Another homework assignment is to find out. So I've got a theory. I noticed walking around the cemetery, there's a lot of Freemasons that are also buried there. And while there are no witches calendars that I know of that have a 36-day month, or
even one that says October. Yeah, there's not months like that's a Greek thing. Is the months is the October, November, December, so on. So I'm familiar with the witches calendar as well, and it's like it's mostly based off of solstices, if I'm correct.
Well, lunar calendars, solstices, equinox, right? The wheel of the year. You're looking at the solstices, equinox, and then the midpoints in between each. Those are the whole typical witches calendars. And then each moon lunar cycle being the month. So, now that said, Freemasons use a lot of, they like codes and numerology. We know that Freemasons have 36 degrees in their ranking structure. And so maybe, just maybe, there might be some kind of little Freemason code thing going on there.
Maybe. Maybe that's actually very interesting. You hadn't told me that before. I didn't know that there were 36. What did you call them? What were they?
They're degrees.
Degrees.
So as one is initiated further and further into the order, you go through what is called degrees. So you'd have a, you know,
So what would the 36 degree be? Would that be the highest?
yes, as
Huh.
far as I know.
Interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
right. And correct me if I'm wrong. If we've got listeners out there who know better than me. I am not a
Yeah.
Freemason. There's a lot of conspiracy theories around Freemasonry, and there's a lot the Freemasons I know really kind of dig the conspiracy theory stuff because it makes them sound cooler and more interesting.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, if I had conspiracy theories related to me, I'd feel pretty cool about myself.
yeah, yeah,
I'd
um,
totally feed that fire. I'd be like, "Oh
right,
yes, yes, I am a werewolf." Don't tell
right.
anyone though, because then it wouldn't be a conspiracy anymore.
And yeah, once you tell if you tell them not to tell anybody, then you know they're gonna
Yeah,
tell.
you know they're gonna spread it around. Yeah,
Right.
it's
Make it
that's the conspiracy.
the more the secret, the cooler it is.
Mm-hmm. See,
So
conspiracy.
yeah, so maybe there's something to that. Maybe there's something going on.
But
Obviously, that
but
doesn't
Jason,
explain the finger.
how do you know that the pictures haven't been doctrinated? I'm leading you. I'm leading you.
That is an excellent question. And to answer that,
We have our special guest Heather
I
Metcalf.
I was really excited when I received these pictures and I forwarded them on to my chief investigator who did some precursory analyzation
Yeah,
of
that's
said
me.
digital
That's
media.
me.
So to Heather, here's Heather with the
Here's
report.
Heather with the news. So, I don't know if we are able to post these pictures somewhere where, like, maybe on the website so people can reference it,
Mhm.
but I highly recommend that people look at these photos, check my work, because I am not an expert in checking these sorts of things, but I did use the knowledge that I personally have in video editing and photo editing because I do pride myself in being able to do that quite well. So I did a couple tests. The first one, which I did, was I changed the HDR to make sure that there wasn't any sort of, let's say, like burning or light work or any sort of color changes, and I wasn't able to find anything. The second thing I did was I went up and I aligned the two pictures together and did like an opacity. Is that how you say that word? Um,
Opacity.
Opacity,
Op-
thank you. I've only ever seen that word written, so I wasn't sure how it was said out loud. But
opacity.
opacity, opacity, however you want to pronounce it. But I put them together, and there was no warping of the shapes. They align perfectly, and the only thing that changes in the picture is the finger. And then the third test I did was I zoomed into the actual structure of the actual fingers and looked around and saw that the weathering on around the third, fourth, and second finger was it was not, what's the word? It wasn't the same as the index
Consistent.
finger. Consistent. It wasn't consistent with the index finger. And so the only thing that I could personally think of is that the reason why the weathering would be different is if the finger moved, which is very strange. But I looked into that specifically because I was trying to see if maybe there was maybe some sort of editing where they weren't able to make it look identical to the other fingers. But it kind of brought that to my attention, which I thought was very interesting. So those are the three tests, I believe. Did I do a fourth one? I can't quite remember.
No, I
Yeah,
don't
there's just the
remember
three
either.
ones. But so that was kind of two editing tests and then a physical test to see if it made sense. And I wasn't able to find anything out of the ordinary. And if anybody else would like to try their hand at it, I'm sure Jason would be willing to post up the originals on the website as well. And then I'm sure we can post the edited pictures that I did to show exactly like with the fancy red circles, like
Mhm.
look here, sort of thing.
Well, why don't we do this in order to maintain a kind of a chain of custody?
Hmm.
Um, let's do if somebody wants to try their hand at looking at them, they can
Hmm.
email us and
Okay.
we can share the originals that way.
Cool.
and we can work together on it.
Just like a collaboration. That's a good idea. I actually like
Exactly.
that. I like that.
And in the meantime, we can post your little analyzations on Instagram, and then we'll include them also in our final report, which will go on the blog.
Cool. I like that idea. That sounds
Yeah,
cool.
me too.
Neat.
Great. Cool. Well, I think that brings us right up to the end of time, isn't it?
But that can segue perfectly into what is our email.
What is our email? Yeah. It's cryptosciencesocietyx@gmail.com.
Nice.
Sorry. I'm sorry I made it so long.
I sorry as well. Sorry.
It's all right.
Okay.
Once you get it, like, once you get your email us enough that the Google will recognize that you want to email us, it'll be really easy. So just first couple times you have to write out cryptosciencesocietyx@gmail.com, and then Google will take it from there. Right?
Nice.
Right?
Nice. Yeah.
Welcome to this.
We'll be part of your contacts.
The AI revolution has begun. So before we start the fade out and the theme music to take us back out at the end, do you have any pluggables, any announcements?
I would just like to say, if we have any listeners in the Utah area, I am the regional manager and we are looking for team members. So you can email me at spoopydetective.com@gmail.com. Again, that is spoopydetective@gmail.com. And we can put that in the description in the video as well. And so and so if you could just email me showing that you're interested. We are looking for investigators, we're looking for, specialists, anybody. Mostly my sect works with the paranormal investigating, so hit me up.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all right. So this episode and all the episodes of this podcast are sponsored by Turn a Page Bookshop in Aurora. Go to turnapagebookshop.com to patronize them. This podcast is also written and produced by the Crypto Science Society and its members. The theme music, Dead Bats on a Wire, composed and performed by Savvy Rivka, featuring percussion by Ashleigh Eve. Graphic design by Eddie Nori and Heather Jane Metcalf. Sound by Acepeda. Special thanks to you for listening. You are not just fans or followers. You are the reason this podcast exists, and you're a part of the society. We invite you to share your suggestions and contributions. Let us know what you think in the comments and email us at cryptosciencesocietyx@gmail.com. Follow us on all the social medias and visit our website, sciencecryptojournal.wordpress.com. And we are launching a Patreon, so consider becoming a Patreon member. The podcast is free to consume, but it's not free to produce. I know that blended iced coffee mocha is $5 a day and as much a part of your life as the podcast is. So maybe consider setting aside a few dollars a month for us. For the original theme music and the artwork, my bizarre sense of humor, and the electricity bill that allows Janae to remain physically in this reality, which obviously we haven't paid.
Yeah, we should probably work on that.
Yes, bring Janae back to reality.
Yeah, that search party costs money too. We haven't paid them yet. Maybe that's why they haven't found her.
So if you like what you hear, show it off. Like, subscribe, share, and until next time, keep questioning.